Hello, everybody. This is Reg. Welcome to this segment of Give Yourself Enough Credit. Got the Java? You know it's good? And the info I'm going to give you is going to be pretty good too. Tomorrow, February 12th, will be the start of tax season. For those that need to get their taxes done, that's when the fun starts. And hopefully it's a lot of fun for people. Today's segment is going to be on assets, liability, and equity. So there's a way that this ties into credit. And I'm going to explain this in very good detail. Accountants and businesses, they use these terms regularly, but I'm going to use them more or less on the individual level. And it won't be that hard to do. If you'll just stay with me, it'll be very easy to kind of assess. The word asset is generally defined as anything that you own. It could be equipment, land, property, things like that. Basically, if it has value and you own it, it's an asset. There are two types of assets. You've got liquid and you got fixed. Liquid is anything as cash or anything that can quickly be converted to cash. Your fixed assets are typically things like land, trademarks, even a brand if someone has one. Those are all considered fixed assets. The word liability is defined as something that you owe. It could be bank loans, mortgages, unpaid bills, IOUs, any other sum of money that you may owe to someone else. There are two types of liabilities. You've got current liabilities, which are typically liabilities that a person owes within the next 12 months. And then you have non-current, which is basically long-term debt that is spaced out over a time period longer than 12 months. Basically, if you promise to pay someone in the future and haven't paid them yet, that's a liability. The word equity is defined as ownership of assets that may have debts or liability tied to them. Let's put it another way. When you take your liability and you subtract it from your assets, that's what's going to get you your equity. Or more simplistic way to remember, assets, something that you have of value. Liability, something that you owe. So if you subtract one from the other, then that gives you your equity, which is basically what's left over. Well, we talk about credit on these segments and we need to know, well, how does this stuff affect credit? And I'm going to go ahead and explain this in a little more detail. You got assets, you got liabilities, you have equity, right? Well, liabilities, they decrease the value of one's personal net worth even if it's acquired to purchase an asset. So if a person can decrease their liabilities, the value of the asset goes up and the person's overall net worth goes up. Look at it this way. If your assets are greater than your liabilities, most will consider you a good credit risk. It's usually a good indicator of good financial health. Now, someone with excellent financial health, that is typically someone that has considerable assets, but carries little to no debt at all. Now, those that have good financial health and excellent financial health, they may at one time or another had poor financial health and turned their situation around, which is kind of the business I'm in. I try to help people do that, or at least get them started. Think about this. When this pandemic hit last year, yes, you had some people's assets grew, and they grew exponentially, and that's great. For millions of people, their assets decreased dramatically, and in some cases, gradually or suddenly became non-existent. The liability still existed, even though for some their assets weren't there. And for many, their liability grew even more because they were forced to exhaust what assets they had, i.e. emergency fund if they had one, or incur some kind of fee, or the interest rate gets a little bit higher, and then suddenly the price gets higher due to an inability to pay. Now, in a lot of cases, this is how a lot of items end up as entries on people's credit report, like late payments, defaults, foreclosures, repossessions, medical bills, student bills. Okay, the list goes on, and I continue to name them. Now listen, if that's not you, that's a good thing. So you pretty much know what I'm saying is true. Okay? But for those that it affects, many people want to change their situation now. Many wanted to change their situation last week. Some wanted to change their situation yesterday. But they just need the opening or the opportunity to make that so. Well, I hope people take that opportunity today, because there are ways to turn things like this around. There are too many people that are currently doing it at this moment. I'm happy that I get to help in that process. Now, if you want to see more of these videos, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe. My website will also be included. You can use your comments if you want to comment for more information. I'll try to answer your questions, or we can set up something and talk. You never know. This is your main man, Reg, and I want you to remember, give yourself enough credit. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves and each other.